Right, so my previous video was on Philip Schofield's interview with the BBC. And as I said in that, the analysis of it, there was a lot of eye movements, a lot of body language, a lot of theatrics, almost Shakespearean at times. And it was about 10 minutes long, or about 12 minutes long, I would say. Holly's, by comparison here, couldn't be more contrasting. And it kind of befits the person she is, totally different to Philip. And here her statement is barely over a minute, almost all scripted. She just reads it out, barely any eye deflections whatsoever. And I would think, and again, in that short space of time, it's very difficult to analyze the eye patterns from an NLP point of view, but I would think you could base a lot of honesty based on what this statement is. Now, that honesty may be, some people might allege that it's kind of vacuous, in that it's purely reading out a statement which has been probably prepared by a battery of lawyers and PR agents, but that would be nothing unusual in that. Most celebrities at that level probably would, and it'd be cleared by the lawyers at ITV as well. But I would think this statement, it shows, amongst a lot of things, it shows her handing a lot of the scripting of it over to other people. It's pretty clear from it, I think. So, and you can tell from the very first, basically the first 4 seconds is her taking a deep breath in and even admitting that she has to take a deep breath in, because this is anathema to her. She's not comfortable doing this kind of thing. Philip, on the other hand, you can tell, even though the circumstances are awful, you can tell he almost revels in the drama of things. Probably not this drama. He's probably not enjoying that, but he likes being in the limelight. He likes to be in control, and he enjoys the kind of drama. Holly definitely doesn't, and you can see throughout this, and that is clear. She makes it clear from the outset. She wants us to know that she's not comfortable with it. I think the two statements, two radically different statements and contrasting ones, show the two different types of people there. Philip probably had a lot of arrogance associated with them and lofty ambitions. Holly, on the other hand, I think always knew she was presenting light entertainment. She's a style icon. It's very light entertainment in the mid-morning. She knows she's not going to be Jerry Paxman, and she doesn't want to be. On the other hand, Philip Schofield, I think, had sort of ambitions beyond his station, really, and a bit of narcissism was creeping in. I mean, that moment where he's handing a list of potential groomers to the Prime Minister at the time, David Cameron, something I don't think Holly would ever stoop to, and it's very ironic now, really, considering what's happened. So two very different people, two very different statements, and let's roll it on and see what she says.
Firstly, are you okay? I hope so.
The start there is really sort of PR sort of tool and a PR sort of tactic in order to say, this is not about me. I know you might think we're suffering, but it's all about you and your suffering. And that is a little bit twee and way too much. I think, it's kind of like trying to deflect and trying to say that really all they're all interested in is the viewer, and the viewer is suffering. I think it's pretty clear the viewer is not suffering. For most viewers, this is just a bit of drama. It doesn't affect them personally, and it's a daytime TV show. But I think it was a very unusual start to this statement. But the most ridiculous thing about it is she doesn't say, are you okay? She says, are you okay? Now, I've tried to track down, is that a kind of a local sort of slang or colloquialism from the part of England that she's from? For instance, in Dublin, people would say, are yous okay? Instead of are you? So it's a very unusual start, and maybe it's telling as well. It's trying to be colloquial. It's trying to say that I'm one of you, basically, and I'm kind of throwing my arms around you. I'm trying to show how empathetic I am. I think it's a little bit saccharine and way over the top. I don't think anybody would buy that, really. However, I think, and it's ironic because I think if left to her own devices, I think Holly would be a lot more sincere. But she hasn't been left to her own devices. She's really, you can tell she's handed this over to the PR agents, and they've put in that kind of spin in order to make to win over the audience. I don't think it was a good idea.
Feels very strange indeed sitting here without Phil.
Feels very strange indeed sitting here without Phil is a kind of a very surprising and kind of cringy comment to make. And it shows kind of a lack of autonomy on Holly's part. Really, you would imagine. And first of all, what I'd like to say is I think Holly's completely innocent in this. She's done nothing wrong. It's Philip. If there is the case to be answered for, it's Philip. And in that case, really, I think Holly should be showing a bit more independence and saying, look, yeah, what she's kind of implying there is that it's very hard for her to go on without Philip at her side. A little bit, not totally, but that seems a little bit surprising for a professional broadcaster to say.
And I imagine that you might have been feeling a lot like I have.
Again, that's straight out of the PR handbook. It's, show the empathy with the viewer. It's not about me, it's about you. So I imagine you might be feeling a lot of how I felt. So in giving the impression and giving the illusion that she and others can imagine how the 50 million people out there in the audience are feeling, which of course is preposterous, but this is straight out of a kind of a PR slick handbook, and it's way overdone. It's too much.
Shaken, troubled, let down.
So what's she imagining that we're feeling? Shaken, troubled, let down. So it's almost always a triumvirate of feelings. So shaken, troubled, let down. So shaken is the impression that this is all a bit of an earthquake for the viewer. Troubled and let down. Let down that we put our trust in this person and that trust has been shaken. It's interesting that those three words have been chosen. I would doubt they were chosen by Holly. They're chosen by lawyers probably. They're very sanitized words in which you can read in anything really.
Worried for the well-being of people on all sides of what's been going on and full of questions.
Worried for the well-being of people on all sides of what's been going on. All sides. So that's an interesting choice of words. Not both sides, but all sides. And worried for the well-being, the implication there is probably a reference to Philip's kind of emotional blackmail, really, that he was going to commit suicide. That was what his statement pretty much said that. I'm going to commit suicide. It's going to be your fault for holding me account for something, which I thought was really a low blow, really, and not kind of really the opposite of an apology. You couldn't get further from apology from that. So worried for the well-being of people on all sides of this, and full of questions. So that again leaves it very, very open, full of questions, and the implication there is that Philip's statement didn't really answer any of those questions, which is quite correct.
You, me, and all of us at This Morning gave our love and support to someone who was not telling the truth.
So we're finally into the meat of it here. You, me, and all at ITV gave our love and support to somebody who wasn't telling the truth. So that's the first time she's actually saying something concrete, and it's the first statement really in the whole thing. So the love and support, I suppose, kind of harks back to really when Philip came out. And that was probably what she's kind of alluding to there. And somebody who wasn't telling the truth. So that's the first time, that's a fairly clear statement. I mean, shaken, stirred, questions, all of that is very vague. But somebody who wasn't telling the truth is the first kind of clear assessment of somebody's character. Now, of course, the word somebody who wasn't telling the truth is distancing herself from it. And it's interesting that she doesn't mention Philip by name there. But we all know it's him, but for some reason. Now, so not telling the truth is a very dodgy thing to put in any statement usually, and lawyers are terrified of it, because to say that somebody's a liar is usually very actionable. But in this case, there's probably enough meat there to make sure that it's safe to say that. But yeah, so somebody who wasn't telling the truth, that's about as far as she goes in terms of his wrongdoings.
Who acted in a way that they themselves felt that they had to resign from ITV.
Now, this is very legally couched. To somebody who acted in a way that they themselves had to step down from ITV. So she's not saying, or the lawyers aren't saying, that somebody acted in a way which was illegal or immoral or any judgment on that. They're making it very watertight in that they're just stating the bare, bald fact and letting everybody else take inference from that, that this person had to resign. So they're saying acted in a way such that the person had to resign. So really, it's really skating the minimum there. And it's not really making any commentary on his behaviour, just the result of his behaviour. That's it.
And step down from a career that they loved.
Had to step down from a career they loved. That kind of feeds into the Schofield narrative of him being the victim, that his career has been destroyed and he's been cancelled, unfairly and stuff like that. So that's surprising. There's a little bit of an undercurrent there of feeding in to the narrative that Philip has done, which I'm surprised. A lot of people would have expected her to, and would have been totally fine with her cutting and running, and said, "Look, I've been screwed over, and I'm having nothing more to do with this guy." But there's a lot there that's actually bolstering Philip's narrative, which I'm surprised by.
That is a lot to process. And it's equally hard to see the toll that it's taken on their own mental health.
It's equally hard to see the toll that it's taken on their own mental health. So that's feeding into the Philip statement, "I'm going to kill myself if you hold me accountable," which I thought was kind of backfired on him. I thought was totally unfair, and the thing that I know how Caroline Flack felt. Awful stuff.
I think what unites us all now is a desire to heal for the health and well-being of everyone.
So this is the point, and I was going to say this is the point at which she chooses to get emotional, and that would be kind of a cynical take, but I think we can't forget that really, as presenters, they're actors. I mean, they are really acting. It doesn't look like it, but really, they are acting on presenting a show. It's not real life, so they are actors. And so you can never be sure whether something is an act or not. I would give Holly credit that normally I think she's fairly straightforward and fairly a lot of integrity, but she's quite a closed book, very difficult to read. I mean, especially here, I mean, she's looking laser sharp at the camera. There was barely an eye flicker. She's just reading out that auto cue. So really not giving anything away as usual. But this is the moment where she gets emotional. So really, of all of the incidents that's happened, the bit that she's getting emotional at is that it's equally hard to see the effect it's having on their mental health. And what she means by that is Philip. So really, the bit that she's getting emotional about is about the effect it's having on Philip. And a lot of people would be quite surprised by that, I think. So she takes that deep intake of breath, and then she's kind of wavering a little bit on the word desire. And it's ironically, the sentence that comes after that is the most bland bullshit PR speak you could possibly get, because it's the 3-act structure that the PR agents will say. It's like, we've got the intro, we've now got the conflict, and now we've got the conclusion. So, and the end is going to be the resolution. So I think what unites us all. So that's like, we're assuming that we know how you feel, which is kind of condescending, but it's kind of like we're at the front and we're leading you all now to a new place after this, and we're going to use buzzwords like going forward and all that bullshit. This is the really nauseating bit, ironically, just after the emotional bit. So I think what unites us all is a desire to move on and all that kind of stuff in a spirit of unity, and that's tough to listen to. But it's interesting that this is the crux at 49 seconds. That's where the first stuff is actually properly said. The emotion comes not at anybody else, but about the suffering. It's true suffering, I suppose, but interesting to choose Philip's suffering and all of it. I think what unites us all is a desire to heal for the health and well-being of us all. Couldn't be more ironic, because the knives are out. Not many people are interested in healing and unification, not surprisingly. Former broadcasters or have the knives out, and are all previous grudges going back decades are now being wheeled out and put into this sort of conflict. So the statement is typical sort of PR saccharine bullshit, really, but ironically, the opposite is the case. Now, a lot of the stuff that's being dredged up, particularly towards Holly, I think is very unfair. And I think people are now they're making sure that an opportunity doesn't go to waste in order to stab somebody in the back or the front. And a lot of old grudges are being driven up, particularly towards Holly, which I think is very unfair because she hasn't done anything wrong here. And now people can say that, that she knew and all this kind of thing, but really she's not his parent. She doesn't have an obligation to interfere or to quiz him. I mean, he should have the morality himself to decide his own life. And whether you did or whether he didn't is another video. But that's just the funniest, most ironic statement, that everybody is now united. Eamon Holmes and others probably aren't as united in a desire to heal in that kind of PR speak.
I hope that as we start this new chapter and get back to a place of warmth and magic that this show holds for all of us, we can find strength in each other.
So she says, as we start this new chapter, which again is kind of PR speak, it's, it's the narrative of a book. We're turning a page and we're moving on to a new chapter. So we'll get back to a period of warmth and pleasure, I think, and magic that this show creates. It's the first time in the whole statement that she breaks eye contact and she looks towards the crew. And there's a feeling that the human is erupting from it. This is actually a nicer part of the statement in that she is kind of harking back to a time when things were simpler. When really, by the sounds of it, she's into it, the whole thing, for the warmth and magic. This a simplistic show, light entertainment, and warmth and magic. And that's one of the nicer parts of the statement. I think that could have been put maybe towards the start. Now, it wouldn't fit the PR narrative of, that we have to have the 3-act structure and all that kind of drama. But it's probably, we're getting a bit more honest here, particularly with the eye break towards off the auto cue.
And from my heart, can I just say thank you for all of your kind messages and thank you for being here this morning.
That's actually quite a nice part of the statement, the gratitude towards the warm messages. It's kind of an acknowledgement. There was a lot of that PR bullshit at the start that, it's not about me, it's about you, and I'm concerned with all the 50 million viewers and I know individually how you all feel. Here is a bit of honesty in saying, I appreciate your messages, that they got me through. There's a bit of humanity there. Now, I know some body language experts would probably say that she's, from my heart, she's not clenching her heart there. And some body language experts would probably say that's an indication of insincerity, but I think there is some sincerity in that. And that's quite a good part. And she's now starting to reach out a little bit. All of it was very robotic. But the eyes starting to be freed up now, and she's starting to look towards Josie, and she wants to hand over a little bit because this is very awkward for her. She's dying through this.
Myself, Josie, Dermot, Alison, Craig, and every single person that works on this show will continue to work hard every single day to bring you this show that we love.
It actually ends on quite a nice note. That's actually quite a nice moment, really, there. And Josie is one of the more sort of empathetic people on the show, quite a warm person by the looks of it. I suspect Holly probably specifically requested her to be on in order to have that kind of backup. And I think that hug in the end is quite genuine. And she says, thank you. I really needed a Josie cuddle. Now, she kind of very curtly says the thank you, which is very, it's kind of lapsing back into the very reserved Holly, which is very curt and snippy and very professional. But I think that was a nice ending to it. And Josie, it was very empathetic there and was very helpful towards the end.
So on that note, Josie,
Come here, you bring it in. Bring it in.
Thank you. Thank you. I need a Josie cuddle. Oh. Thank you.
Yeah. All we can do now is be the family that we are.
Exactly.
So Josie gives her the hug, which is quite warm. Interestingly, it's Holly who breaks it at the end, and she pats her twice on the shoulder in order to kind of release it from it. She's feeling still a little bit awkward. She's awkward with the statement. She's awkward with the embrace as well. And Josie says, all we can be now is the family on air that we always have been. And Holly says, exactly, which doesn't sound very convincing. I'm not sure if Holly views it as a family. I think she views it as very much a kind of a very external relationship, which is fair enough. It is a workplace, and I wouldn't say she looks on it as as a family, but that's an interesting end to it. Overall, I think the two statements couldn't be more contrasting, Holly's and Philip's. Holly's is short, awkward, reading from the audit queue, totally scripted by the PR agents, whereas Philip's is completely dramatic, over the top, Shakespearean, and woe's me. It's all about me, and kind of emotional blackmail. So that video is coming next. If you want to check that out, my analysis, particularly using NLP techniques of Philip's statement. So that's the next video coming up. See you next time.